I always enjoy doing a new Asus PC build with the latest components. This time last year I tackled the Evangelion product range, which included everything you could ever dream of, all themed around the popular anime. While this year's build isn't as flashy, Asus sent me over some cool components to fiddle around with. Most importantly, the ROG Hyperion case. The lineup included the 13th gen Intel Core i7-13900K CPU, the ROG Strix B760F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard, the Ryujin 3360 ARGB cooler, the Strix RTX 4080 GPU, and the ROG Hyperion case to put everything into. So in this content, I'll be putting all these components under the spotlight and walk you through how the experience was building this PC. First, let's dive into each of the items. First off, we have the heart of the build, the ROG Strix B760F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. This is Asus's high-end and premium gaming motherboard that checks all the boxes when it comes to specs. It has DDR5 and PCIe 5.0 support. It supports Intel's latest 13th gen Core i9 CPUs, which includes the 13900K Asus sent me over for this build too. It has Wi-Fi in its name, so of course it supports Wi-Fi 6E. There's also a range of ports including USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 for up to 20 gigabits per second. The device also packs a display port on the back alongside an HDMI port. There are 6 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, 5 audio jacks, an Ethernet 2.5 gigabit port, and all the BIOS features you need, such as BIOS flashback and the clear CMOS button. RGB fans will also be happy to know that it comes with 3 3-pin addressable Gen 2 RGB headers and 1 4-pin Aura RGB header. The ROG Ryujin 3 is the brand's latest in water cooling technology, and it comes with a large 3.5-inch LCD display. But the display isn't the only thing that has changed this time around. Asus has also doubled the internal memory on the unit from 60MB to 32MB. More memory means videos look better and run smoother than ever before. Asus says that the display now supports 2000 frame videos at 60 FPS and 24-bit color depth. This means that videos you play on the unit look smoother, more vibrant, and can even be longer. Of course, the cooler comes with all the expected features. It supports Intel's LGA 1700 chipsets and AMD AM5 chips. It also comes with a robust set of customization features which lets you make the display your own while also monitoring all the system frequencies, voltages, temperatures, fan speeds, water flow, and more. Inside the unit, there's a new 8th gen Acitek pump with a 3-phase motor powering the cooler. Asus has also increased the cold plate on the unit, making it 32% larger than the Ryujin 2. The Nocta Industrial PPC fan can spin it up to 2000 RPM, and it only gets as loud as 29 decibels during heavy use. Next, we have the Asus ROG Strix RTX 4080 GPU. I have already reviewed this card on my site and absolutely loved it. Not only does it come with a pretty new design, but it is as powerful as RTX 4080 cards get, and that alone makes it a must-have for gamers looking for the best performance. It is an RTX 4080, so expect great DLSS3 performance on this card and all the ray tracing bells and whistles too. In terms of the design, Asus has included new axial tech fans on the GPU, which they say increases airflow by 23%. They are also much quieter, so that's a win too. The card also comes with Fan Connect 2, which is a pretty great feature. With it, you can hook up to 2 PWM fans to monitor the speed and tweak the airflow on the PC directly through the GPU itself. As for the RGB, Asus has included a cool block effect on the end which is tweaked on the PC. It is unlike anything I have seen on other GPUs and makes for a refreshing approach compared to the usual fan RGB stuff we see from other brands. Of course, all these things need a nice case, and the ROG Hyperion GR701 is a good match. I have to say that Asus has done a really good job with this case, from the sleek pyramid lighting on the front and the bottom to the giant X design which makes up the center display arms and the legs. The Asus ROG Hyperion is also a beast when it comes to its supported components. It is an E80X case with 420mm dual radiator support. It supports 440mm fans, has its own component storage, ARGB fan hub, and even 60W fast charging through the 2 USB-C ports on the top. I do have to say that in comparison to other PC builds I have done in the past, this Hyperion one didn't really give me any issues. I started off with the usual. I placed the motherboard down into the case, screwed it in and installed the CPU. I then put in a power supply, wired it all up and started plugging everything in. I was also surprised to see the Hyperion case included a number of nifty compartments and holes for the wiring. For example, the power supply can't be installed through the back of the case. Instead, I had to remove the jaw assembly unit by unscrewing the plastic compartment from the case. I then had to remove the power supply casing by unscrewing another 2 screws on the opposite side, after which I could take out the glass power supply shell, install the unit, screw the screws back in, add my wires and put everything back. While it sounds like a mission, it really wasn't. It was easy enough. The only thing that got in the way was the GPU bracket, which kept sliding down onto the wires, but I lifted it up and tightened the screw to keep it in place. After I installed the wires, I then put the cooler in. The ROG Ryujin 3 has definitely redefined how you approach cooler installation. Instead of using wires for each individual fan, the fans magnetically tether to one another, and there's one cable that magnetically connects to the last fan. All of the RGB on the fan and the speed data is then transferred to the PC using these magnets and this one single cable. I have to admit I was pretty impressed. It is cool to just have one cable for these fans. It saves space, makes things neater and just feels like the future. These magnets on the cooler were also quite strong, so I didn't feel like the cable was going to fall out when I moved it around. I then took the single cable and plugged it into the RGB controller on the Hyperion case. It was a dream to install. The controller is also nicely situated at the bottom of the case and the cables all managed to reach without a problem. The cooler itself also included a header and a USB cable which I ran through the back and plugged into the motherboard. The rest was pretty simple. I wired the PC together without any real struggle. The various sockets and holes on the ROG Hyperion made installation incredibly smooth. There were no tight wires and even the CPU cable had a lot of flack after I plugged it in. Usually I found in the past that PC cases make this a real chore by limiting the length of the cable you can use from the CPU to the power supply. It also helped that I could remove everything I needed, including the top vents to install the cooler, the side doors to save space, the bottom to pick up fallen screws, and the inner plastic door to sort cables out. The only thing I had to screw back in was the power supply casing, which I hope ASUS changes to a clip of some sort. That would mean the case is almost completely screwless. There are also multiple spots to install radiators and fans if you need them. The right hand side had a fan bracket and the front too. ASUS has covered the right fan mount with a cool ARGB plaque which also doubles up as a hard drive component. So you can fit 2 420mm radiators here or extra fans. There's definitely a lot of room for expansion. Of course, all the flash also syncs to the armory crate, which is fun to fiddle around with. The ROG Ryujin 3 let me change what was on display with a click of a button, and I have to say, the display quality and the smoothness of the animation on this LCD was also impressive. The brighter, more vivid and higher frame rate panel goes a long way to deliver a high-end gaming and monitoring experience. I've never seen this sort of quality in gaming before. In terms of the airflow, the ASUS ROG Hyperion does an excellent job. There's so much room to breathe here, including large openings on the side of the case. I won't lie, these openings would drive me a little crazy because there's no filter to catch the dust, but they do help with the airflow. On the inside, however, there are 2 vents which are easily removed for cleaning. I just personally wish the doors closed without leaving these large gaps for stuff to float inside. The case is also incredibly quiet. Even with its giant triple 140mm airflow, the case never reached higher than 42 decibels when tested under heavy loads. I heard the Ryujin 3 sometimes, but the case itself was a dream to sit next to. I spent a lot of time slaying the demons of hell in Diablo 4. I was able to grab the game during a special promotion where if you purchase a participating RTX 40 series GPU, you got the game code. Given that this had the ROG Strix RTX 4080 in it, it was the perfect match and I definitely took advantage of the situation. Of course, this Asus ROG Hyperion case has been made for enthusiasts, those who want to install multiple cooling systems in a PC and really kit it out over time. It is a gargantuan case with a gargantuan price tag to boot too, but I won't lie, I had a lot of fun with it. It is one of the easiest builds I've ever worked on. The cable management was clean, and given that everything was ASUS designed, everything simply spoke to one another, and after I switched it on for the first time, I actually didn't have to go back and plug anything else in. It just worked from the start. I don't get to say that every day. Sure, I didn't enjoy the gaps by the doors, and even the magnets on the doors itself felt a bit weak for my liking, but it is a pretty stylish case if you're looking for something this big and feature-packed. So those are my thoughts on the Asus ROG Hyperion case. Are you looking to pick this beast up? Let me know in the comments down below. Huge thanks to Asus for sending all those components for me to test. I really appreciate it. While you're here, please do consider liking and subscribing. Be sure to visit www.glitch.online for more gaming tech news and reviews. Until next time, farewell.